Sam Rushworth.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And before I begin, I draw attention to my register of interest that I am the chair of the All-Party Parliamentary Group for T-Levels. And can I also thank Harrison Wilmot, who is a sixth form student, a work experience student, who helped to research some of the figures for my speech today, and he's sat in the gallery. And I also want to just welcome today's positive growth figures, the highest quarterly growth in the G7 and the highest real terms growth in over 4 years, as well as falling unemployment. But, Madam Deputy Speaker, there are moments in a nation where a challenge becomes so large, so deeply rooted, that it ceases to be merely a policy problem, and it becomes a test of national purpose. I believe that's where Britain now stands on work, skills and opportunity. Because across our country, but particularly in communities like mine in Bishop Auckland, there's a generation of young people growing up under pressures that no previous generation quite faced in the same combination. Young people who lived through COVID, living through a youth mental health crisis, facing rising housing insecurity, economic anxiety, and a labour market that's changing faster than institutions have adapted. 1 in 7 16 to 24-year-olds in Bishop Auckland are not in education, employment or training. Recently, I visited Dean Valley and Shildon, a deprived part of my constituency, with the highest child poverty rate in County Durham. I met with locals to listen to their views about regeneration, and senior citizens with long memories told me stories about a time when these villages were buzzing, when they had their own swimming baths and the best sprung dance floor in the area. A time when people could leave school straight into apprenticeships in the mines, in the railways, or at the brickworks. It was hard graft, but there was secure work and there was dignity. The closure of the pits and the wagon works and other industries left deep scars on our community, and in some cases, intergenerational poverty. And I know the effect that it can have on a community to see thousands of jobs disappear, which is why I welcome this government's commitment to British Steel in the King's speech. And I also thank the government for the work that was done to save 700 jobs at Hitachi in nearby Newton Aycliffe, and the work of my neighbouring MP, the member for Spennymoor Newton Aycliffe, who led that campaign. But Britain's NEET rate is significantly higher than in many comparable economies, and the consequences aren't temporary. Research has shown that prolonged youth unemployment scars earnings, confidence and opportunities for decades. A young person disconnected from work at 19 can still feel the effects in middle age. This is not simply an economic failure, it's a moral failure. And if we don't act now, we risk writing off the potential of an entire generation precisely at the moment that Britain needs their talents the most. When they were in government, the Conservatives hollowed out the very systems that help young people find their place. They talked endlessly about opportunity while cutting away at the ladders that create it. Ensuring good jobs for our people is a fundamental duty of everyone in this place. So I welcome the ambitions set out in the King's speech that will help to sustain and create new industries in the North East, strengthening Britain's energy security, expanding infrastructure, supporting the defence industries, accelerating the building of social and affordable homes and creating opportunity through growth. When I look across the area that I'm so privileged to represent, I see real opportunities. Opportunity for new industry around lithium in Weardale, for geothermal energy and other types of renewable power, getting us off of the fossil fuels roller coaster, creating energy that we build, that we keep, creating the jobs locally. The potential for house building and regeneration in the Dean Valley area, defence jobs. We've already got fantastic employers like Cook Defence Systems in Stanhope, PGP and Teescraft that could become an eco-centre for the defence industry. New jobs in healthcare and jobs in a generation of trained counsellors, educational psychologists and speech and language therapists who will be in our schools thanks to this government's commitment to special educational needs. His Majesty's address also contain plans to strengthen our relationship with Europe, and that matters. Because it's not all good news. We've lost jobs in my community, in Barnard Castle. Pharmaceutical jobs moved to Austria, the other side of a boundary. But we do need to be honest. Too many businesses that I speak to tell me they struggle to find the skills that they need in the workforce. We can't deliver the defence manufacturing jobs without technicians, fabricators, engineers, advanced manufacturing apprenticeships. We can't deliver the clean power, energy resilience without electricians, retrofit specialists, geothermal engineers, heat network installers and construction workers. And we can't build the homes this country needs without skilled tradespeople. We can't compete in a world transformed by AI and advanced technology if millions of young Britons are left without the skills or confidence to participate in the future economy. The great challenge of this decade is not whether good, honest work will exist. It's whether Britain will equip its people to do it. And that requires us to rebuild the skills pipeline in Britain that's been neglected for too long. And the answer is strengthening partnerships between FE colleges and local businesses. I will.
Honourable gentleman for giving way. I agree with a lot of what he said in his speech. But on FE colleges, I happened to visit Richmond upon Thames College in my constituency earlier this week. And the chief executive of the group said to me this year they've only had 0.55% per student uplift in funding, despite the white paper published by this government last year promising a real terms increase year on year. That means they're not going to be able to create the places that young people need or pay the lecturers enough. Does he agree with me that's a sore disappointment from his own front bench?
Thank you. I'm going on, in fact, to talk about the importance of FE funding, whilst, of course, understanding the challenges that government faces, because there's enormous amounts of demand to spend money everywhere. But I want to make the case for why FE is a place that we really do need to resource. Further education colleges endured years of underinvestment. Funding per student fell 11% over the course of 14 years of Conservative government. Vocational education was too often treated as second class, and apprenticeship opportunities declined precisely at the moment that we needed them most. Between 2017 and 2014, apprenticeship starts for under-19s fell sharply, while too much of the apprenticeship levy drifted away from creating genuine opportunities for young people to enter the labour market. And at the very moment that Britain needed a skills revolution, we got drift. Now, I spent some time as an FE college teacher in that period. It was a job that I loved. I think I loved it even more than this job. In terms of the opportunity that I had to work with school leavers who had struggled and young adults who needed a second chance, teaching access to HE courses. But I left because I wasn't really earning the minimum wage. That is how it is in our colleges. And I just want to take a moment actually to pay tribute to the fantastic staff at Bishop Auckland College and the vital work that they do, not only as teachers, but also as mentors and carers to people in their late teens and young adult years. And the work that they also do to tackle poverty. I meet regularly with the principal, Sean Hope, from that college, because I regard the college as an absolute key partner in everything that I would like to see achieved in the place I represent. And he told me recently that they have a closet of clothes that they will give away, that he has to add extra budget to make sure that everyone can get a breakfast and lunch because of the poverty of the students that are coming to that college. And I have to say that the decision to cut the educational maintenance allowance and not replace it, I think, was one of the worst pieces of vandalism of the previous government. It's actually why I so much welcome the lowering of the voting age in the Representation of the People Bill, giving young people a stake and the power to use their vote to demand better. I also welcome the protection from foreign interference, because somehow I just doubt that a Thailand-based crypto billionaire really had the interests of young people in Bishop Auckland at heart when he chose to give £5 million and more to the Reform Party. So, Madam Deputy Speaker, I welcome the measures and ambitions outlined in the King's speech. I welcome the emphasis on growth and opportunity, the focus on rebuilding Britain's industrial capacity, and the government's commitment to reforming skills provision and strengthening pathways into work. Because for too long, Britain has operated with an outdated hierarchy of success, one that implied that only the prestigious route was the academic route, a thinking that held our country back. There should be no hierarchy of esteem between academic and vocational education. And a young person training to become an engineer or a care worker or a builder, a digital technician or a heat pump installer contributes every bit as much to Britain's future as someone sitting in a university lecture hall. Apprenticeships done properly remain one of the greatest engines of social mobility the country has ever created. They provide not just qualifications, but wages, confidence, structure, dignity and purpose. So I welcome the move towards a more flexible growth and skills levy, new foundation apprenticeships and the government's efforts to make it easier for small businesses to take on young apprentices again. However, the Association of Colleges has rightly warned that while additional in-year growth funding is welcome, colleges remain under intense financial pressure after years of rising student numbers, inflationary costs and workforce shortages. They're asking to deliver more students, more technical pathways, more specialist provision, more support for vulnerable learners, often without the long-term funding that they need to plan sustainably. If we ask FE colleges to become the backbone of Britain's growth strategy, we must give them the resources to deliver. FE colleges are not merely peripheral institutions. They're core economic infrastructure. They train the people who will deliver the ambitions that we set out in the King's Speech. And in places like Bishop Auckland, they're institutions of hope, aspiration and opportunities. And finally, Madam Deputy Speaker,
I'm very grateful to him for giving way. Speaking as a former teacher and somebody who does love this job more than that one, I did love teaching. Does he agree with the Education Committee, the Select Committee, that FE colleges which are currently not exempt from claiming back VAT are at a disadvantage compared with sixth form colleges that are attached to schools that can claim back VAT, and that there is an argument to be had that FE colleges should get that advantage as well?
Yeah, I fully agree with the point made, and I'm conscious of the time, so I'll conclude quickly, Madam Deputy Speaker, just by saying it would be remiss of me if I didn't also mention my absolute delight at the Education for All bill that was included in the King's Speech. And I intend to speak in the debate for that when the time comes. But also just to personally thank the Minister and the Secretary of State for what I thought was a model of how to engage, both with charities, with parents, as well as with backbench MPs on that quite difficult but really, really important piece of legislation that I think everybody across the House will welcome as they see this battleground over EHCPs coming to an end and the proper resources that children need to thrive entering those schools. And let me just close where I started to say that it's not a question of whether we can afford to create opportunity for our young people. It's the fact that we cannot afford not to do so because the future of our country depends on it.